2016 at 4 p.m. We'll call the meeting to order. Present are Alderman Vanderleest, Alderman Weary, and I'm Alderman Dave Nennig. We're expecting Alderman Nicholson. I'm sure he'll be here shortly. First item is approval of the minutes of the meeting of September 14th, 2016.
Move to approve.
Okay, we have a motion by Alderman Weary, seconded by Alderman Vanderleest to approve. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Adoption of the agenda. Are there any additions or corrections we know about?
Nope.
Anybody have anything? No? Okay, is there a motion to adopt the agenda? Moved by Alderman Vanderleest, seconded by
Second.
Alderman Weary to adopt the agenda. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, number one, consideration with possible action on the request by the Whitney Park Neighborhood Association to place its neighborhood sign on park property. And in our packet, we had a picture of what the sign would look like, as well as a map of the location. Are there any thoughts on it, Donnie or Dan?
Okay. The planning department met with the neighborhood association and reviewed potential locations throughout the park for their sign. They would like to place it in the northwest corner of the park near the intersection of Main and Jackson, as indicated on the map that you have there. The sign installation expense would be paid for by the planning department. The neighborhood association would like to install some landscaping next year in 2007, and they would also be responsible to maintain the plant beds. Staff has no concerns with this request.
Okay, any discussion? No?
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion by Alderman Vanderleest, seconded by Alderman Weary to approve. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Number two, consideration with possible action on the request by Western Corridor Neighborhood Association to place its neighborhood sign on park property. Again, we've got a copy of what the sign would look like, as well as the map. I guess that's in your district, Mark, right?
Western Quarter? No.
That's not you?
It's me, guy.
That's yours?
Yep.
That's,
Oh,
yeah.
it's Alderman Weary's, okay. Is there any discussion?
Again, they met with the neighborhood. This is similar to the last one I just talked about. They would like to place their neighborhood sign near the intersection of Oneida Street and Western Avenue. The sign would be placed on park property adjacent to the West Side Trail, where the trail meets Oneida Street. We also have no concerns with this request.
Move to approve.
Okay, motion by Alderman Weary, seconded by Alderman Vanderleest to approve the request. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. We should note for the purpose of the minutes that Alderman Stoyer is present at the meeting. Okay. Number three, consideration with possible action on a request by Wisconsin Public Service for a 12-foot wide utility easement along Sitka Street in McCullough Park. I'm sure this is part of the new development that's occurring over there. And we have a map. Is there any discussion on this?
Okay. They are requesting a 12-foot wide easement on the north side of Sitka through McCullough Park, and you can see it's marked in, is it marked in gray on this map?
Yes.
Okay. And to upgrade the service to the adjacent property owner to the west. There are only a few trees within this proposed easement, and to the parking lot entrance to McCullough Park. The proposed electric line will be bored under the existing tree with the easement. The law department is in the process of reviewing the easement language. The park staff has no concerns with this request as long as it's approved, all the language is approved by the law department.
Okay. Any discussion?
Is this to serve just the one property here?
That's,
Next to the park?
that's my understanding from WPS.
Isn't that your house?
No.
I think this whole area over here is being developed. There's a development plan that went through the Plan Commission, and so I suspect that this is part of the plan to get forward over to that.
Correct.
new development.
That's my understanding.
I believe, sir, are you here for item 3?
Well, on my sheet, it's item 3, but you're already beyond it.
Nope.
It's not.
Yeah, number 3, we're on number 3 right
Right
now.
now.
For the easement for,
Yeah, no, not on my sheet.
Oh, that's the is that the INS committee?
That's next meeting.
Oh,
That's the next
Okay.
meeting, this is the park committee meeting?
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah.
What time does that start?
Okay.
Well, as soon as we're done
Right after this
here,
meeting, yep.
so maybe a half hour.
Okay.
Okay.
We would ask you to approve this with a contingent upon law department's approval of the Eastman language.
Motion to approve.
Okay, motion
Second.
by Alderman Vandalay, seconded by Alderman Weary to approve contingent upon approval by the law department. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Which brings us to number 4, consideration with possible action on the 2017 Community Development Block Grant proposals. Do we know how much they're expecting to get in Community Development Block Grant funds?
150,000.
For
For
parks.
parks.
For parks.
Just for parks. I don't know what the total amount is,
Okay.
but our portion is 150,000.
Okay, thank you. Do you want to walk us through this?
Yep. Dan, go ahead.
Okay. So on a yearly basis, the redevelopment authority approves $150,000 in community development block grant funding to go specifically towards park projects. We can only use this funding in eligible areas within the city, and it must be used for neighborhood enhancements, not large community projects. I just handed out a map to you which shows the boundary of what is eligible and what isn't eligible. And then page 2 kind of lists the parks on the west side and lists the parks on the east side that are eligible. And then we also have a prioritized list on page 2 of what staff would recommend for funding. So we did review our proposed projects for all of these parks, and staff is currently recommending that the full $150,000 goes towards the purchase of sports light fixtures for 3 ball fields at Beaver Dam Park. 2 years ago, 1 ball field was renovated, and there's currently 3 there. So 1 was renovated 2 years ago, and next year, the other 2 are gonna be renovated and relocated, so that we'll have all of the ball fields kind of clustered in one location. So we have funding in place already to do the renovations to the other 2 fields. What we don't have money for is to install any sports lighting on those 3 ball fields. The leagues that'll be playing on these fields do play into the evening hours. So if the fields aren't lit, the fields will not receive very much usage. So it's really imperative with these fields that we do light these. It'll cost about $180,000 to purchase the light fixtures for these 3 fields. NWTC has agreed to install the poles as a school training project next year if we move ahead with this project. In addition, park staff would likely install the fixtures, and we can do a lot of the underground electrical conduit work also with staff. The city would likely have to hire an electrician to install the electric panel and complete the wiring, or possibly Public Works electricians could do that work for us. So we're trying to do it as economically as possible. So any dollar amount over $150,000 would have to be funded through city bonding. So either we would have to look at our existing accounts and see what's available, or we would have to request a little bit of additional bonding next year to finish the project up. Because we know that the fixtures alone are gonna cost about $180,000. And then we do have to buy some electric wiring and some paneling and stuff, or some electric panels and stuff like that. So that is our recommendation for 2017 Community Development Block Grant Funds.
Is that $150,000 you said on that fund that you're getting?
Yes, on a yearly basis, that's our average of what we receive.
Okay. So in other words, you're not a total, in other words, it's not like a big negative as far as what you're gonna need to complete the project.
You can't do much with $150,000.
No,
We do have a lot of different projects on a waiting list, and it always has to be in the eligible neighborhoods, and it's always contingent on how much we're going to get from the federal government for community development block grant funds. But Alderman Stoyer?
Thank you, Chair. Actually, that kind of answered my question, and I was going to ask Dan, and Donnie. So the 150, that's roughly what we get per year? I mean, is it go up or down depending, it's roughly about that each
We
year?
always get 150, and occasionally additional money is thrown in if there's a special project that the aldermen request.
Okay.
But on average, on a yearly basis, we request 150.
Because I was looking at the eligible parks, and there's a number of them. Do you have a list or a priority list as far as, you know, the projects that might need the most help all the way down? And I know that there are different costs to that, but do you have, is there some kind of matrix or something that you have out
Yes.
there that kind of gives?
Yeah, we have you want me to answer that?
I can answer.
Okay.
On a yearly basis, we put together a project list, which we usually hand out during the bonding request. And so that lists all of the projects that have been proposed throughout the years that we either have funding for and we're in the process of completing, or they're projects that people would like to see done. So whenever a request comes forward, it gets added to the list. And we did, at a staff level, we did look at all the priorities on that list, and we felt as a staff that this is the most important priority, because like I said, we have funding to build the field, but we don't have funding to light them, and unfortunately, the fields aren't gonna get a lot of usage without the lighting, with the leagues
No,
that
and I
are
understand
playing.
that, and that's all fine, and I understand the work that the folks put into it, but I was just wondering if there was something out there that, you know, each of the alders can look at their parks and say, okay, what do we need there, or it's usually requests that we might bring forward, or needs that you think are more important than others. I mean, I know it's difficult sometimes to choose one over the other. You know, they all think everything needs help, but I'm just wondering if there was something out there that.
There's a proposed project list that we have in our department. Every time we get a request from either you or one of the neighborhood associations or ourselves, we look at that request and we put it on a list. Currently, there's 131 on this list right now. And most of these are projects that, you know, are like adding bathrooms, or can we get a playground, new playground put in? Can we get a new shelter put in the parks, or whatever? In this particular project, again, why we centered on this is we have different pockets of money. We have NWTC that's going to help us in this project. It's going to save us thousands of dollars to put the poles in. And we have money already in the project. We just need a little more money to finish the project. So we look at where can we get the best bang for the dollar. And at $150,000, you really can't start a lot of these projects because we couldn't even dig the ground up for that amount of money. So that's why we chose what we did this time.
I make a motion to approve as recommended from the park committee.
Okay,
I'm good.
if I could just, we'll take a motion by Alderman Van
I'll
Lee,
second.
second by Alderman Weary to approve. I just want to clarify one thing. Last year, there was a change in which parks are eligible for CDBG funding, because they're now using this American Community Survey to determine which parks are eligible. And there were some parks that in the past, you would have thought, like Joanne's Park, for example, would have been eligible, or Sullivan Park in my district would have been eligible. But the way these surveys are used now, there were those plus a number of other parks that were no longer eligible. So that's one of the factors that went into
And
this.
how was that decided? I mean,
Well, the federal government is now using this American Community Survey. It's in the past, a lot of the surveying that was done was the census that's taken every 10 years. Now they're doing this community survey, which is a random survey that they do every year in different parts of, of communities. And it's not a complete survey of every household, it's just a random survey, it's random sampling. But that's what the federal government is using now to determine which parks are eligible. So, but I think in looking at projects on that list, and we can get you a copy of that list, if it's not eligible and there's a good cause for it, we can look at it for bonding or budgeting. Because we know
But
budgeting.
it's just kind of interesting. I mean, you would think that if there was a survey done, it would be done by folks that have a the knowledge of the city somewhat. You know, if people are coming up from outside and doing that, it's like, anyway. That's all I have, thanks.
Yeah, okay. We should note for the minutes that Alderman Nicholson is here. Andy?
Thanks, Dan. Question, Donnie. Months ago, we, maybe this is a different program, what I'm thinking of. Remember a couple months ago, probably in May, we were discussing the East River Trail. And then I noticed there were some parks that were on the agenda, and we put money into, what program was that?
That's the bond.
That's bond, okay.
That's the bond.
Now, this is from the federal government.
This is CD funding,
Okay.
community development funding.
That's coming from the federal government.
Correct.
Okay.
And
That's,
I don't know how much in total we're going to get in community development block grant funds, but they've always, for several years, get put 150,000 into eligible park projects.
so what are we deciding then? I'm sorry.
Well, we need to present a
Decide.
proposal for park projects, and we have, with that 150,000.
Oh,
our
there is a
staff-
price tag here.
Yeah, our staff has recommended that we do the lighting for the ball fields at Beaver Dam Park.
Oh, okay, all
Side.
right.
And-
Okay. I was just
And,
wondering.
and it's part of a project to renovate the ball fields. so
Right.
They felt that it was
Do you
appropriate
need-
to.
and there's a
to
motion,
light
right?
at the time. Yes, we
Okay.
have a
All right.
motion.
Just
You
a
answered my
quick-
question, thank you.
Just a quick clarification, the motion is actually to refer this to the RDA for approval.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so
Thank you.
everybody comfortable with that?
Yep.
Okay. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Since Colbert Park's not on the map.
No?
Darn. I didn't know if Alderman Stoyer needed another wall, if that was it. Oh, you're looking for another wall in your area? Another permanent
Out
wall?
of, well,
Yeah. Oh, okay. But at any rate, if you want to see the whole list or criteria for that American Community Survey, I got quite a file on that to share with you. Okay. Number 5, for informational purposes, review of the proposed 2017 Parks, Recreation, and Forestry Department's budget.
Okay, every year at this time, we bring in where we're at in the budget process. For you people who don't know, this is Marcia. Marcia is our accountant for the department. In case you don't know who she is. Do you know all these people?
I think
Mr.
so,
Vanderleest,
except
Mr.
for
Nicholson,
Alderman
Mr.
Vanderleest.
And Mr. Denny. Okay. This is not a final proposed budget that I'm going to talk about tonight because, as you know, the mayor has not finalized his budget. So these are just things that we have talked about and how we're going to proceed with this year's budget. The Park and Rec Department, as you know, we have 8 divisions. We have 9 with Bay Beach, but Bay Beach is not part of the 101 fund. So our 8 divisions are like City Hall, Administration, Triangle, Rec, Parks, Pools, Forestry, and the Wildlife Sanctuary. Those are the 8 divisions that this department handles the budget for. In 2016, our revenue was $770,800. Our 2017 proposed revenue is $799,913, which is actually a $29,113 increase. Our net expense in 2016 revised budget was $7,615,451. Our proposed 2017 net expense is $7,875,769, which is an increase of $260,318 over our over the 2016 revised budget. The expense increases in the area comes in the area of regular salaries and benefits, insurance, workman's comp, and seasonal salaries. And the cuts that we made to our budget were made to our operational accounts and to utilities. We went down a little bit in utility costs this year. Our current proposed 2017 budget includes running the existing Colburn pool. It doesn't include what would happen if we had a new pool. We're not going to have that built by that time. So it's the existing Colburn pool. It does not include the expansion of the 4K program. As you know, we're in the middle of a $3 million fundraising event. By the time we get that up and running, we probably will not be ready to start that 4K in September of next year. So the 4K stays at its present level. Salaries increased $189,000, and that was the 2% increase for the raises, along with $1 per step increase in seasonal salaries. These two areas alone raised our budget over $331,000. So you can see that we already made over $71,000 of cuts to this budget to get at the 260, 310 level. Also in salaries, we proposed to add one mechanic to our staff. The mechanic would be 50% of salary and benefits would come from the 101 fund, and 50% would come from the Bay Beach fund. Because we're looking to put that mechanic out at Bay Beach during the months of June, July, and August. So that's what we're looking to do. So it'd be a 50-50 split if it remains in the budget. Right now it's in there. I don't know if it will stay there or not stay there. Regarding seasonal salaries, we are really experiencing significant turnover and changes. The last weekend at Bay Beach, we had to hire 5 people to get through the weekend just for one weekend because we were so short-staffed. We are proposing to schedule a $1 pay grade rate per budget. If you know, we have 7 pay grades in our seasonal salary. These are people like concessionaires, pool people, parkies, referees. Those are all those people that we pay out a seasonal salary. You know, gym instructors, instructional program instructors that teach fitness classes and tap and ballet and all those kind of things from us. We need to be competitive within the area to attract and retain these seasonal employees. We've had people that hopped around for a quarter all summer long on us to surrounding communities that were paying more money than we're paying in our schedule. Our rates go from $8.47 to $13.71, depending on what position that person is hired for. Obviously, the concessionaires and attendants and those type of positions are the lower positions. When you get to the $13.71, those are usually our pool director positions or our instructors, classroom instructor levels are at that rate. Our officials are paid $16.86 to $18.71, which is extremely low. The starting rate at Ashwaubenon for official is $25. So we're still way behind, but we're trying to get caught up as much as we can. Keep in mind also that some of the revenue that we make from the programs are going to help pay for some of these increases in costs for salaries. We also experienced a really large increase in our workman's comp this year. Just our workman's comp line alone went up $41,820. That's the cost of the insurance going up in the workman's comp. Everybody's is going to go up. Ours went up as well, but in particular, ours went up $41,820. That we offset in this current budget. I already told you we went up $29,113 in revenue. Fees and charges. That's our schedule where we put together everything that we charge. You know, how much the swim lessons charge, how much are the cost to be in a basketball league or a football league or something like that. What we did is we increased the shelter rentals from $100 to $110. At Bay Beach, it doesn't matter, but it went from $125 to $140 because it's not in this budget, but they also increased. And our Triangle building went from $200 to $225. We also, so the cancellation fees also went up with the additional cost per shelter. In pool emissions, we raised 25 cents for pool emissions, and we raised $2 per lesson. It went from $18 for lessons to $20 a lessons, and we're still way below some comparable communities on that. The family pass remained the same. There's no increase to the family pass. This fall and winter, we're going to sit down and we're going to look at how we handle special events. Because we have gone from 89 to over, I got to remember this now, I don't have it in my head. We have almost tripled the number of special events that we have. So when we put our budget together, you know, things such as like garbage bags and toilet paper, we are short. We blew our budgets completely because we had so many additional events that we had to staff. So we looked at that this year, but we're going to put that together. We're also very low in what we charge. And James and his staff is looking at how we're going to look at Madison's, Milwaukee's, and compare them and see how we end up. But you're not going to have that ready for the budget process. That will come to you at a later date. And then we added a cleaning fee. What we have is, you know, we have some people who rent some shelters and they totally trash the place. And then our staff is left to pick up and clean up. And so we put a $50 charge if they trashed these facilities for us to go in, clean them up, take care of any damages that are happening to the facilities. If they're really heavy damages, then of course we get the attorneys involved and then we will do whatever we have to do to recover some of those costs. So that's the difference in fees and charges. In the area of equipment, and this is trucks and shippers and stuff like that. Last year in the Parks Department, we got $492,300. This year, we're looking at $522,071. We have a lot of old equipment in the Parks Department, we do. But we do our best to get it up and running. In the Forestry Department, they're $193,000 of that total. We're looking at a boom truck. What we used a lift truck, a bucket truck, if you want to call it, a small. It's not the big bucket truck; it's the smaller bucket trucks. And we used GPWs. They had an extra one, and now they have to have it back. So my guys are up there with ropes and saddles, climbing trees. I mean, is it dangerous? You bet, it's dangerous. But we don't have a truck to do it. So that has been my top priority for equipment this year, is to try to get our guys a bucket truck so they can go up and start getting the high branches on the trees. We also asked for a dump truck in Forestry, and of course we need that to haul the wood. In the Parks Department, we have a 16-inch gang mower with a cab that we asked for. Every year we replace one of our 72 zero-turn rear lawnmowers so that we can keep them rotating so we don't run out of them. We asked for an 8,000-pound forklift for the Park Department. And this is a used one, by the way, that we asked for. We didn't ask for a brand new one. We're asking for if we can find a good used one. We asked for a Bobcat tool carrier for the Park Department at $59,000, sorry. And we asked for a long box pickup truck for the caretakers. Also at the park shop, we have to replace some leaking floor hoists for the things that come out of the ground and lift the machines up. We've got some very leaky old equipment, so we're going to have to do some repairs there so that we can lift these up safely and not have them drop on our mechanics and be able to fix our trucks by being underneath them. So we're asking for that repair as well. At the Wildlife Sanctuary, we asked for a skid steer to do some maintenance work on the property. So that, in the nutshell, is our equipment request. Which brings us to Forestry. As you know, at one of our last park committee meetings, there was talk about us going on private property and removing trees on private property. If we do that, there's no money in our budget to hire a contractor. So if we're going to hire contractors to come in and do this, you've got to put some money in our budget to do it. Currently, we have no money placed in this proposed budget for that. If you wish to continue that and you want that to happen, you're going to have to put some money into our budget for us to hire these people. Otherwise, we have no money to hire them. So that's something that you may want to think of. Now, what's the magic number? That's a good question. When we talk, we only know of one or two situations where we've had private property tree issues. When we had the neighbor-to-neighbor letter, we've been successful. It also takes the liability off the city. Now, if you want to do this, it's your choice, your wishes. It puts more liability back on us. We have to go through due process with the attorneys, and we have to find some money to fund this. Because I can't take anybody's trees down without money. You know, we have issues with a lot of private property areas that we can't even get our trucks into. Some people have to remove their private property trees in their backyards in particular, with cranes. They get these cranes and they come in over the top and haul them out. And that can be very expensive. So what do we put in the budget? Well, an average tree for us to take down is about $1,200. That's an average tree, from what our foresters are telling me.
Donnie, that's cutting it, chopping it up and hauling it away?
Yeah, I believe it's a full service, yeah. So we have a lot of larger trees in inner city that would be a lot more than $1,200, but I don't know what the magic number is. It depends on the size of the tree. It depends on what obstructions are in the yard. You know, can we get to it? It could be anywhere from a couple $1,000s to $5,000. You know, that's the ranges of the trees that we've taken down. The smaller trees at $2,000, the larger trees at $5,000. That, you know, and that the $5,000 one was one with the crane that had to come in and remove it from the top. So I'm sitting here with our foresters going, well, what's the magic number? Now, we only know of a couple that we had to deal with. I know at the meeting, you said you had some. I believe Alderman Stoyer said he had some. So we have not gotten those complaints. We haven't gotten none of those. On an average, we have dealt with maybe 2 or 3 of these situations a year. Now, if we start taking these trees down for these people, what do you want to put in? I'm going to maybe propose a number of 20,000 and see where we begin and how many we have to do during that year, but we don't have the magic dollar amount until we see what happens with these requests as they come in. Yes.
Donnie, I believe, isn't the process itself being studied and will be brought back to
Yes.
James and Forestry?
Yes,
Okay.
you, this committee directed us to put an ordinance together, and we're working on that with the attorneys right now. And then we're going to put it back together. But I just wanted to bring this up to your attention so that you realize there was no money in this budget
Right.
currently, right now for it.
This would be the initial fund, because obviously the hopes would be that that'll be replenished as you bill people. Now, that might drag out over a couple of years, but.
Yeah, it's going to drag out a few years before
Yeah.
it even gets up there, yeah.
Yeah, I do get a lot of calls about trees in my district, and I explain to people what the city does and what it doesn't do. And, you know, when it's something on private property and, you know, it's a case where somebody doesn't like limbs from their neighbor's trees, leaves from their neighbor's trees falling in their yards, you know, that kind of thing. You know, I give them information on what you can do if there, you know, if there are limbs from your neighbor's tree that are on your property, you have a right to cut those down. But you ought to talk to your neighbor first and see, you know, make sure there's a clear understanding on it. I really think that if the city gets involved in going in and looking at trees and assessing them and you know, ordering them down, actually going in and cutting them down, I think we're going to get a lot more requests, an awful lot of requests. 'Cause, you know, I look at my district, you know, in an older neighborhood, and just about every property has trees where, you know, a neighbor's property hangs over onto your property, that sort of thing. And, you know, I know from a liability perspective, you know, you can't always look at a tree and know what condition it's in. Sometimes, you know, it isn't until you cut the thing off and you see that it's infested from within. So, you know, I do think that there is some liability there. If a forester goes in and says, you know, it looks to him like the tree is safe, and then a week later it blows down, you know, I think we're going to have liability issues there. I sure understand what Alderman Zinn is getting at here, because people do have concerns about trees that, you know, they don't like that are coming over from the neighbor's property, but, you know, and I think there were also statements made at one of the meetings that other communities will handle it this way, that they'll go in and I'd like to see that as well, what kind of policies other communities have for dealing with trees on private property. Chris?
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. I don't imagine the Forestry will be back before budget, then we'll know whether or not we even have to put it in, right? If we have the debate
Yeah,
before we even
no.
put it in.
No, I won't know,
Yeah, okay.
so,
Because we might not have to put anything in if council decides we want to go in that direction.
Right.
So it'd be nice to have that discussion.
right. I'm just bringing it to your
Yeah.
attention,
Alright.
and you guys can do
Just so
what you
we're aware
please.
it's not in there now.
But, yeah,
Okay.
Andy?
Well, Donnie, right now, we don't go on private property, right?
correct,
Okay.
correct.
All right, and then the damages to these events, I mean, is that common?
Damages to fences or?
No, to events,
Oh, to-
special events.
Clean
Oh.
face. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, you said they, like, cleanup, we're gonna put some type of
Oh,
fee.
no, sometimes when we do a cleaning fee to event, what happens is somebody might rent a shelter. Okay, let's say they rent a shelter at Wilder Park. And we get to there and it's just totally trashed.
I mean,
You know,
does that
there's
happen?
garbage all over the park and.
Really?
And, you know, there's stuff torn off the walls and stuff like that. Yeah, we've had those
I
situations.
think you charge them up
Yeah.
you know,
Wow.
be heavy-handed with that, you know?
Yeah,
They
no,
should
we
return
will
it.
charge them for any damages,
them
but
as
the
much as-
cleaning fee
and more.
is what we put in. The $50 cleaning fee is what we put in.
Right
Triple
now?
that.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so you wanna raise that then?
No, we just put the $50 in there. We just had
Oh, we
to
just
add
put
it.
that in?
Is that
Yeah.
enough?
That's
Okay.
part of the fee.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when somebody rents a shelter,
You want
they're
more?
told that either you clean it up or you pay $50.
We had where they paid $30 and it wasn't touching it. You know, the people are like, it's worth the $30 for me to get out of here and just leave
Yeah.
it a mess.
What about 100?
So, well, we didn't want to, you know, go too high. If you want to propose that, that's fine, but we
But
just
that'll
put-
discourage, $100,
Yeah.
that'll discourage anybody.
Yeah.
I mean, I would think. But, I was writing things down here. Oh, when you were saying, like, these seasonal workers, where Ashwaubenon's paying $25 for
An official, yeah.
an official for basketball,
Yeah.
and Green Bay's at 13?
1671 to 18, wherever step they're
Okay.
on. Yeah. We can't do it all at once because we don't have
Right.
enough money, but I proposed a $1 increase in each step area
Okay.
to try to get caught up to that.
Hmm.
And to retain workers. I mean, we're really struggling. As you know, restaurants and everything are shutting down because people are not paying enough and they're losing workers, and we're part of that as well.
Okay.
Yeah, so would the
Okay.
process
I'll
be
just-
that we put the money in the budget and then review a seasonal schedule at some point? Or how do we do
I can actually give you this.
Oh,
copy,
okay.
If you'd like to see one. You guys want one as well? Sure. Okay.
Thank you.
So where does the Bay Beach Fund, that's just, the Bay Beach Fund just basically funds Bay Beach only?
Correct.
There's nothing?
And all the
Okay.
seasonal workers that work at Bay Beach, that's all in the Bay Beach Fund. These are a program, rec program, and pools.
That are not with Bay Beach? Are these
Yeah.
with Bay Beach?
Yeah, Bay Beach is on there. You might say Bay Beach attendant or Bay Beach ride operator, because we have to put a rate in of what we're going to pay them.
Okay.
Whether it's out of the 101 or the Bay Beach Fund.
Okay. But like football, basketball officials, that's not Bay Beach?
No, that's not Bay Beach.
Okay.
You can see on the bottom there, basketball paid per game,
Oh,
football,
okay.
and officials and softball.
And we typically will start someone at step one, and then
Or
as they're
step
2
2.
or more years, then they
Yeah.
go up in step.
Well, if we get a WIA official, we're certainly giving them the step 4 because, I mean, we're even lucky to get them to do a game at that rate, let alone paying them the lowest rate. They'll say, no way.
In WIA officials, I know, Donnie, they're
Uh-huh.
between 22 and 25, so
Yeah.
do you have any WIA officials, do you know?
Sometimes we do, yeah.
Okay,
We've, in some sports, in football, I know we have one guy who helps us out.
okay.
Just happen to have two WIA officials here. I do soccer and Andy's
Well,
football and
I do-
basketball.
Yeah. I do football and basketball now.
And I was gonna say, yeah, these are low compared to, I'd be lucky to get some WIA.
Yeah.
So the $1 would affect all of these? They'd all be up one?
Yeah, in each one of these pay grades that we go
Everyone,
on.
okay.
Okay.
And is your plan every year to bring that up for all of them? or-
Well, I'm bringing it up this year. We'll see if it's gonna be $1 next year. It
Mhm.
probably won't be $1 next year. It could be if you guys want it to be. It depends on, you know, the money that's available for the budget.
Yeah.
But what would the total be increasing by $1? How much would it, what is the budget?
How much is the budget for
You know.
that one? Was it 46,000?
Mm-hmm.
Something like that?
Okay, that's close enough.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
the budget schedule calls for personnel and finance to look at the budget on November 1st. So
Well-
sometime between now and then, we're going to get the budget books
Right.
and be able to, to review it a little further. I think that our next meeting is before the November 1st joint finance and personnel. So if there are issues when you get the budget book, we can talk about it at our next meeting as well.
Do you have any questions about anything for the budget for parks? Oh, before I forget, I didn't finish, if that's okay, Mark? Okay. A number of aldermen have talked to me about forestry services. Forestry is a hot button for us. I mean, we get so many complaints and being on the 8 to 9 year rotation. I know several of you have said, hey, what does it cost if we added another forestry worker or two? What does it cost if we do this? None of that was put in the budget. I don't have the money for it, but if you want that, then that's something you have to decide amongst yourself. But that, I know, is going to come up as well, because I know there's a number of people who said it's ridiculous. And what we're trying to do is, we have so many trees. Right now, when we're planting, we're looking at putting where 2 trees were. Can we extend it and put 1 tree there instead of 2? We're looking at ways of, actually, we look at let me grab that. I wasn't going to talk about it, but I guess I am. There's a chemical out there, and it's a tree growth retardant chemical. And what we're looking at doing, because we've got to try to do something here to get us caught up on this 8-9 year rotation. We apply it to the soil at the base of the tree, and it's a non-restricted use product that can be applied even by a seasonal staff person, so it's non-toxic. It doesn't do anything to the environment, to do any damage. The goal is to reduce the need of the return pruning to the tree. So every tree treated in a given year allows up to 7 years to pass without clearance of pruning. It allows for 600 other trees on our scheduled pruning list to be addressed and given a 4,200 trees over 7-year rotation if we would do this and use this. It improves the customer service, because obviously they're complaining about their tree not being pruned every 4 years, and this would be 7 years. It reduces our citywide pruning cycle by eliminating a mid-cycle pruning operation. And we're looking at that as well. So we're trying some methods to try to reduce the number of trees that the city is taking care of, and looking at how we can stop some of the growth patterns to reduce the number of times we have to prune these trees. And we're looking at reducing the number of trees that we plant and the species. We have looked at species and said, okay, what kind of tree do we really want to put in the city? It depends on the soil, and it depends on what other trees are within the area. But I'm bringing this up so that you realize that we're really trying to look at alternative, proactive ways to try to catch up on this forestry issue.
I got one quick question for you, Dawn. On Janice Avenue, it's in my district. a large tree fell and it crossed the street, totally crossed the street. And it came from a private, in other words, it was on private property. And it crossed the whole street and the street was shut down. And your workers had to come out there probably at 6 o'clock.
Yep.
And they did a good job. I was helping them.
Oh, thank you.
So we could get one line open, and they did a real good job. They came, we had a dump truck there, and they put their stuff right in the dump truck for us. The
Okay.
guy that was, taking the wood away was the owner of the property landlord, and, but they did do a good job. How does it work now as far as that cost goes? Is that cost gonna be passed on to to that property owner, where that tree fell?
Where the tree fell?
In other words, it crossed in other words, when the tree went down, it was in that
Right.
last wind, we had that 45 mile an hour, whatever, and then it crossed, the street was blocked totally.
Yep. Yes, we'll work with them, but in the event that a street is blocked off, that's an emergency situation, and we have to deal with it right away.
Yep, that's what they came out right away.
Yeah, we have to deal with it right away, so we don't have the choice of sitting there saying, hey, it's your tree, you paid for it. We have to remove that tree ASAP from the road.
So that landlord will be billed.
They'll look at what part of the tree was his, if it was ours, and talk about
It was a private owner, not his homeowner, because it came back, it was such a large tree that was maybe 10 feet from the house.
Mhm.
And when it went down, the street was totally, and it was a large tree.
Yeah.
That's it, okay,
Okay.
I'll pass it on to him, then. Thank
All
you.
right, thank you.
To put things into perspective, and maybe Mark wants to comment on this a little, at Finance last night, they talked about the budget parameters we've got for next year's budget, and the limit on the expenditure restraint program is about 1.4%. So the total spending in the city budget from 2016 to 2017 can go up no more than about 1.4%. I don't know if that's final yet, but that's what they're looking at. And if we do go over that, then we lose a substantial amount of revenue from the state under that program. So that's always a goal in going into this, and I suspect that's one of the reasons why the park budget, as well as others, have to be very tight.
Yeah.
Alderman Story.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, and Donnie, I'll talk with you a little bit too. We realize the budget, it's going to be tight, and 1.4%, et cetera, and there's a lot of different compartments. But with that being said, you were talking about the various insurances and such that are raising things. And my concern, and I think a lot of the alders' concern too, is that as that goes up, then the services diminish somewhat as well. So I don't know if that's an accurate kind of description. So I think we do need help, I feel, in forestry. It's just that 9-year cycle and just looking at what we need to do. And if we bring in the private tree issue, I mean, that might be something over time, but right now I'm really afraid of that personally. So my concern is that, as Dave said, the budget's we can only go up a small amount. That if we have the insurances that are going up for the workers and 2% raises, that's going to cut into our ability to give good services. So I think that's what we're up against right now.
Yeah, I don't know the history on it, all the history on it, but I think there were some years that the city chose not to budget at the expenditure limit, that we were well below the limit.
Yeah.
That gets you in a pinch, because once you don't budget as much as you can, then you don't have that leeway going into future years. So, and there are a couple of factors there. There's the levy limits, as well as the expenditure restraint limit. Basically, in budgeting, the city has to try to get within the lowest figure, because we don't want to lose, we want to qualify under both of those things, the levy limit and the expenditure restraint program. So, any more questions about the budget? That's a good overview of what's coming. Okay, Director's report, Donnie?
Yep. Ducks Unlimited was awarded the grant. We brought that grant to you at the last, so they got the first grant, now they're applying for the second grant, and that would be for the construction of the wetland waterfall in 10 years. Speaking of trees, this year, 1,025 trees along streets and parks have been taken down to the stump level. Leadership Green Bay has completed all of their fundraising to pay for the stage at Whitney Park. Construction already began last week on that. Our haunted chase race will take place at Bay Beach and the Wildlife Sanctuary this weekend at 6:30. We already have 420 pre-registered runners, so we're expecting a large crew for that race. Last weekend, Bay Beach hosted the Bellens Women's Half Marathon. It was a great success. And we will also host this weekend the Green Bay Duathlon. So a lot of runs going on. Cabela's hosted their annual walleye tournament at the Metro Boat Launch on October 8th. That was a really nice event as well. Our Walk for Wildlife had a record number of 492, and our Autumn Adventure, sponsored by the Thursday Morning Optimist Group, had a record attendance. DPW and Parks staff has reviewed, has done the first review of the Coburn pool plans, and we submitted them back to Gray for further future review. Our rec department has received 2 state awards recently, and they're called the Silver Star Programming Awards. These are awards that the state gives out for outstanding programs in communities. There are only 4 of them that are given out every year. Green Bay got 2 of them. So we're proud of our recreation staff for accomplishing that. We got one for our Lego building event that we hosted, and our other one is for our Green Bay Parks RX program. And that concludes my report, Mr. Chair. Did we have a motion to receive and place on file the budget part?
Okay.
Motion to receive and place on file.
Okay. Motion by Alderman Weary, seconded by Alderman Van Leest to receive and place on file the report on the budget, 2017 budget. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Any questions on the director's report? Okay, then we'll entertain a motion to receive it and place it on file.
So moved.
Alderman Van Leest, seconded by Alderman Weary. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, then a motion to adjourn. Motion by Alderman Vanderleest, seconded by Alderman Nicholson to adjourn. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Stand adjourned.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Donnie, do you have enough rest?